We are going to have the handshake across the Niger, but permit me to ask the Deputy Governor of Abia State to speak for a few seconds. He's representing the Governor of Abia State. His Excellency Ude Okochukwu is going to speak to us for a moment or two. Let us all take our seats and hear His Excellency deliver a 2-minute speech. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The handshake will take place a moment or two away, Your Excellency, sir.
Your Excellency, the Governor of Enugu State, Chief Ifeanyi Ugwuanyi, who is here represented by one of his aides. Your Excellency, the Governor of Imo State, Owole Rochas Okorocha, ably represented by his Deputy Governor, Chief Eze Madume. Your Excellency, the former governor that are here, with special reference to His Excellency Ike Diohakim and His Excellency David Jang, members of the National Assembly that are here, especially my own dear brother and the senator representing Abia South, Senatorial District, Senator Eyinea Baribe, distinguished Nigerians that are here, especially Chief Olufalaye, Chief Ayo Adebanjo, Chief John Niawodo, Professor Anya Anya, Pa Ruben, Professor Pat Utomi, Brigadier General Lufemi Olutoye, retired. Your Royal Majesties, Highnesses, Indians that are here, let me very specially recognize Igwe Nemeka Achebe, the Obi of Onitsha, and Oba Adeyeye, who is also here represented. Organizers of this wonderful occasion, distinguished guests, gentlemen of the press, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of my boss and Governor of Abia State, Okezie Victor Igboazu, PhD, who is unavoidably absent, and up until this morning, had wanted to be here and be part of what is going on today, but for some other development that took him out of our state. My governor said I should be here to first appreciate the organizers of this occasion. That there is no better time to have a gathering like this. There is no better time to remember and to recognize our great men, people who showed a great deal of love to themselves and to this nation, Nigeria. And also that this gathering, which is talking about restructuring, that this is also a very, very good time for us to finally conclude and agree that this nation must be restructured. It is a matter that's been talked about several times, and that we are convinced that restructuring is the solution to most of the problems that we have in this nation. That all hands must be on deck to ensure that Nigeria is truly restructured. And having said that, let me once again appreciate and thank the organizers of this occasion and pray that our resolution at the end of today will make a better Nigeria. Thank you all, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, sir. The Deputy Governor of Abia State. Thank you very much. His Excellency Ukochukwu Dalo. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to do the symbolic act of why we are here today. And then I should invite Ogbueshi Alban Ofili Okonkwo to please come forward for this special event and discussion panel on handshake. I'm also asked to invite Professor Banji Akintoye and Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, His Excellency, Mazi Samuel Huabongwa. These are persons to hold discussion, 5-minute discussion on the handshake. Ladies and gentlemen, Ogbueshi Alban Ofili Okonkwo. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. When I first received the invitation to this event, I asked myself, why me? Clearly, I'm here today because I'm an Igbo man. In 1960, when Nigeria became an independent nation, I was an Igbo man in Western Nigeria. Then in 1964, I became an Igbo man in Midwest region. Today, I'm an Igbo man in the South-South zone. I understand the wisdom in the invitation extended to me. As an Igbo man who lives at the western flank of the Niger, who has accomplished an eternal bond with the West, having given out 2 of my lovely daughters to our brothers in Yoruba land, my first grandson, a native of Ibadan, is proudly called Ofili. My second grandchild, who is a lady, a daughter, is a proud daughter of Ijebu, and she's called Kambili Nudo. So there is indeed no better person to facilitate the renewal of our bond across the Niger that our eminent sons, Fajui and Ironsi, so proudly ignited. I must admit that the invitation to discuss this handshake across the Niger ignited a very profound crisis in my mind. I could not accept that a handshake does justice to the supreme sacrifice that both General Agui Ironsi and Colonel Francis Fajui made on the evening of 29th July, 1966. It hardly measures to the eternal bond that their sacrifice exemplified. However, the illustrious organizers of this event promptly affirmed that the handshake embodies a friendship beyond brotherhood. It is clearly beyond dispute that what happened between Ironsi and Fajui rates above a handshake. It measures beyond a union between a man and a woman, because the vows of matrimony simply says, until death do us part. It speaks to an unbreakable bond shaped by a supreme spirit and sacrifice of unusual men. It speaks to abiding friendship as well as honor and basic human dignity. This is why I believe we must gather always in the manner we have gathered today to rekindle and exploit this supreme gift of unbreakable brotherhood between the Igbos, the Yorubas, and all others. In this paper, I'm going to use friendship to represent an unbreakable bond beyond death. This is best captured and illustrated by the Niger itself. The river Niger takes its source from the highlands of Futajelon in Guinea. Rather than emptying directly into the Atlantic, 150 miles away from its source, it chose to snake its way through more than an additional 2,500 miles, cascading the shorelines of western Nigeria and the lower ends of north-central state to come back and empty into the same Atlantic Ocean. The real wonder of this natural occurrence is that as it flows from the northwest, going southwards, it contracts an inseparable union with another natural phenomenon, which is called the River Benue. Both rivers, both the Niger and Benue, join this eternal union at the point in Lokoja called the conflux. It speaks to the variegated mix of ethnicities, faith, and tongue that has glued this country together by unfathomable destiny. It is on this divine plank that we must now place our search for our generational mission. We must do what Flora Shaw did, use the dominant occurrence in our landscape to redefine our country. We must now seek our new founding fathers, men who can dream, men and women of simple but honest means, with vigorous wisdom, who will and can appreciate the natural wonders of our landscape. Men who understand that the potential means nothing if not unleashed. Men and women who understand that the conflicts of the Niger and Benue and its seamless flow into the bowels of the Niger Delta, from which Nigeria has provided and earned its sustenance in the 5 past decades, is a divine gift that must not be abused. A few good men and women who understand that on the shoulders of the stem of the Niger and the Benue are 2 yearning arms stretched out in a yawning embrace, waiting for the north to come to it. Men and women who understand, like the American founding fathers, that all men are created equal and basically are entitled to life and to the just pursuit of happiness. Mr. Chairman, esteemed guests, all things considered, Nigeria at present is at a crossroad. In this regard, the concept of the handshake across the Niger becomes very germane to our collective efforts at national rebirth. In the 1999 Nigerian Constitution, which is a creation of Decree number 2024, the military promulgated this decree on the 5th of May 1999. That regime came into being by the subversion of the sovereignty of the Nigerian people. What saved the coup plotters from certain death by firing squad was the suspension of the Constitution. Whereas the Constitution is a supreme document that determines the conduct of citizens within a nation, it is the people that are indeed truly sovereign. The 1999 Constitution is a creation of autocracy, but delivered under the false claim of we the people. The inherent illegitimacy of this supreme document derogates the sovereignty of the people. The people of Nigeria must start a new struggle for independence. We cannot afford to continue to depend on any of the institutions and structures installed by the current constitution, because in truth, it is a creation by military fiat. Legitimacy can never be installed or midwifed by illegality. It is time to simply say that we, the people in the 1999 Constitution, is not in our name. It is time for us to say that the 1999 Constitution does not represent us. So if all of us can stand up individually and say to ourselves, not in my name, it is at best a transitional constitution, and it has to go after 20 years. We must seek to write our own constitution, a constitution that will truly represent the people of Nigeria, a constitution that will represent us, in which we must have a say. It will be a factual constitution that will live up to the true meaning of its claim of we, the people, where all constituents must be given a say on how they will be governed. In this sense, the handshake across the Niger must engender an enduring relationship of human persons united by a common and equal citizenship within the Nigerian space. It must recognize that all participating constituents are stakeholders in an enterprise with clearly allotted equities. A slave master and a slave cannot engage in a meaningful ritual of a handshake, especially of the kind epitomized by the friendship beyond brotherhood. I understand and I believe that it is only the pure essence of equality of the human person that a sustainable brotherhood can thrive. The Nigerian Federation is an aberration. It is time to let the 1999 Federal Constitution go. We must found a new nation built on the true foundation of we the people. As our forgotten anthem says, a new nation where our flag shall be a symbol of truth and justice, where though our tribe and tongue and faith may differ, we must unite in brotherhood to serve our country right. And God willing, to build a nation of peace and plenty where no one is oppressed, wherein indeed we can pass to our children a banner without stain. So today, as we stand on the wings of history, united by a common destiny and a shared geography, let us discount restructuring. Let us leave devolution of powers. And let us all simply say that all we want as citizens of this country is to be truly part of we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, in a totally new constitution. And may People's Constitution be born 20 years from 1999. In Jesus' mighty name.
Amen. If we give him a round of applause, it will be good for my soul. Thank you very much. Let me call the next person on this discussion panel on handshake, Professor Banji Akintoye. Please a round of applause as he comes. May I also tell you that this event is going on live on Facebook, Nzuko Mona, Instagram, Nzuko Hashomona, on Twitter, and YouTube. And I will also tell you the hashtags in time. Hashtag Nzuko Mona and hashtag handshake across the Niger. Ladies and gentlemen, Chief Professor Banji Akintoye, you're welcome, sir. We will give you 3 minutes, otherwise I would have made it more.
Thank you. I don't need more than a few minutes. I salute our fathers, the traditional and natural rulers of our land who are present, and all the distinguished and eminent citizens of Nigeria assembled here this afternoon. And all our people, especially the young ones, I always, wherever I go, I always say that my closest friends in Nigeria are the youths, the ones whom I have spent all my adult life teaching from university to university, in Nigeria and out of Nigeria. The ones who automatically stand up to recognize me wherever and whenever I go in the world. Nigerians are all over there in the world, in our millions. And it is largely because our country is spitting out its best. The youth demand that their country be a country of justice. They demand that their country be a country of opportunity. And they demand that their country should be a country of hope. But all of that has been taken away from them by an unjust government run in impunity, destructive of the best of ambitions, destructive of all hope. And it has been known that these things are happening easily because the two great nations, the Yoruba and Igbo, don't learn to work together. I travel a lot in the world. In the past 30 years, I have lived mostly outside of Nigeria. And I have given lectures on probably every continent of the earth. And what do I talk about? My country. People want to know about my country from me. And so I give lectures after lectures after lectures. So among observers all over the world, among observers of African affairs all over the world, the animosities between the Igbo and the Yoruba of Nigeria have increasingly caused surprise and consternation. These observers can see that the Yoruba and the Igbo have a lot to give to the black race, to Africa, and to the world. The Igbo and the Yoruba are the two largest single black nations on the African continent. They are black Africa's foremost nations in the quest for progress and modernization. There is no other group anywhere on the African continent nearly as determined and as forthright and as successful in modernizing as the Yorubas have been, or the Igbos have been. These two are the leaders of Africa in the struggle for a modern world. If these two nations could manage to succeed in modernizing, in progress, and in all other areas of prosperity, a great deal of change will begin to happen on the African continent. People in the world know that. You may think that, oh, we are just Igbo people here in our part of Nigeria. Oh, we are just Yoruba people here in our part of Nigeria. That is not true. You are people that are being watched by the world. The Yoruba and the Igbo are being watched by the world. Yoruba language, Igbo language, are being studied in countries that you have never heard of. You go to Japan, you find Department of Igbo language, Department of Yoruba language. You go to some country in the interior of Asia, countries that you may never have heard before. You see Department of Igbo language, Department of Yoruba language. You are great peoples. There are great expectations in the world over you. And so people are watching what you are doing. And what they are discovering to their surprise and consternation is that these two nations that should be leading Africa are not doing so. They are fighting each other. That there is animosity between them. From all over the world, anxious voices have been asking, when will these Igbo and Yoruba nations recognize what they are doing to themselves, what they are doing to each other, what they are doing to Nigeria, and what they are doing to Africa? When will they come to the realization that while they have been tearing at each other, each of them and both of them have been gradually becoming second-grade citizens and even slaves in the Nigeria that is their country? The Yoruba and the Igbo have gradually been pushed back steadily, and both have gradually become slaves in their land. What is happening? Why are these very brilliant two nations so foolish as to allow themselves to be trampled into the dust in their country? That's the type of questions people ask me when I stand up to speak abroad. What is happening? Are you two people, you Igbo people, you Yoruba people, you are so daft that you cannot see that you are becoming second-rate citizens in your country? You are becoming slaves and being exploited by people who have no comparison with you whatsoever? That's the question. But thank God things are changing now. Thank God today is the beginning of a major change. But I want to say that this change did not begin today. It started a few months ago, when the leaders of Ohaneze and the leaders of Afenifere got together in Lagos and said, enough is enough. Enough is enough. And when they said that and they started a series of meetings, changes began to happen. The people of the South joined, and then the people of the Middle Belt joined. And so we now have an organization which we call Leaders of South and Middle Belt Forum. And these leaders of the South and the Middle Belt are one, dedicated to getting the Nigerian Federation structured properly. We are going to restructure Nigeria, happen as it may. Secondly, Nigeria is going to become a modern country where nobody can think that they have the right to go and kill their fellow men. It will stop. I mean, we from the South and the Middle Belt, we work together to make such things stop in our country. And we are working for a country in which there will be a revival of opportunity and hope for all our young people. Day by day, these days, officials are bringing our young people from the desert, from Libya, from different parts of northern Africa. People who are fleeing in their thousands from Nigeria because of the depressed condition in Nigeria. We are going to create a country in which our children will go to school, go to university, pass out. start businesses of their own, become the best employers in the world. A country to which opportunities will grow and grow and grow. We are going to achieve it. This is the beginning. And I just want to congratulate Nigeria that the peoples of the Igbo nation and the Yoruba nation and the ethnic groups of the South and the peoples of the Middle Belt have at last realized that if we are going to have Nigeria, let us have it properly. And they are going to achieve it. So congratulations to Nigeria, congratulations to our leaders. It has been my privilege to have chairman the committee that put this arrangement together. I want to congratulate and thank all the people who have worked with me on that committee, and I say thank you. You are standing at a point in the history of Nigeria about which people will be writing about thousands of years from now. The moment of change, the moment of revival of hope, the moment when Nigeria steps into the modern world confidently, not as a country of barbarism and murders and so on. So, ladies and gentlemen, our leaders and our fathers, I congratulate Nigeria that we are having this, but let me say that the people who are holding Nigeria in the condition in which it is are resolved to hold it so. But we are resolved to change it. So, the war for the heart of Nigeria is just starting. The war for the heart of Africa is starting. And I know that we have the strength to win it. I should not go away before I add one more thing. I grew up as a young man, University College Ibadan, not University of Ibadan. University College Ibadan, and I was one of the leaders, the founders of the Action Group, Students Association, Youth Association, and so on. And I became, as I grew older, one of the young men closest to Chief Awolowo. When we founded the Unity Party of Nigeria, I didn't see Yoruba or Igbo separately. We were working together. Eke Anyanwu, one of my closest friends, he and I were elected as Assistant National Secretaries of the party. Chief Ajuluchukwu became, who was a good friend of mine, Chief Ajuluchukwu, the great journalist, became the most senior official of the party. Mrs. Oyibo Dinamadu, these were my friends, became the vice president of the party and the most powerful woman in the party. And so that's it. We Yoruba and Igbo have a lot to give to Nigeria. And the Unity Party of Nigeria became the strong party it was because we worked together at it. But there is one final thing that I must point out. Yeah, there's one more thing I must point out. When the Buhari military took over Nigeria in December 1983, this is a brief story. And it's a story that is very important to what is happening today. When the Buhari government took over, many of us were put in detention. I was put in detention because I was a senator and because I was Assistant National Secretary of the UPN. I was in prison with Chief Fashoranti and others in our prison. Then, because they had nothing against me, they released me, and I went home to Ado Ekiti, in Ekiti. Then, the next morning, Chief Awolowo phoned me and asked me to come and see him. And 4 days later, I went to see him. And we spent the whole day talking about Nigeria as usual. about the great things that can be done to Nigeria and with Nigeria, and so on. Then, that evening, as we were standing up to go to dinner, something very important happened. Chief Awolowo suddenly said, Banji, wait. There is something I must not forget. It is about the Yoruba and Igbo nations working together. You must work together. I may no longer be around. I may no longer be around, but you will work together. I am not saying that it will be soon or that it will be easy, but I say you must do it. It will come. It is the only road forward. That was in 1984, a few days after I was released by the Buhari government from detention. You must work together. I may no longer be around, but you will work together. I am not saying it will be easy or it will be soon or that it will be easy, but I say you must do it. It will come. It is the only road forward. So as I have watched the leaders of Ohanese and our Fenofere, leaders of the Yoruba and Igbo coming together in the past few months, that evening has come back to me almost continuously. You are going to work together. You must work together. It is happening now, and the Lord is good. I think the beginning of the new history of the Yoruba nation and the Igbo nation has started. God bless the Yoruba nation.
Thank you.
God bless the Igbo nation.
Thank you.
And God bless the unity the country of Nigeria to which we belong. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Professor Banji Akintoye. Thank you so much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, give him another round of applause. There is a man we did not introduce here, and I simply take the responsibility for not doing that, and I apologize sincerely. And he has a word or two for us today. And next, I will request that he take as much time as he wants, knowing our circumstances with time. Let me therefore invite Mazi Sam Ohuabunwa, encourage him with a round of applause so that it will be a form of apology for not recognizing him earlier. Thank you, sir.
The co-chairman of this event, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and also our royal fathers. Handshake across the Niger. For me, this is a very historical event, and I believe that generations will remember today and what will come out of here, for good or for bad. Just as we still remember the famous, if the East goes, the West will follow. A lot has been written on why this did not happen. For me, we lost that first opportunity to restructure Nigeria. We lost a second one at Aburi. But for me, we must not and cannot allow the past to imperil the future. But we must understand why the past happened. Otherwise, we'll make the same mistake in the future. I believe we must be open and sincere of what we say here and agree today and make sure there is no ambiguity as to what we are saying and as to what we are agreeing. For me, the cementing factor is trust. The Igbo and Yoruba have so much in common. 5 most factual, critical things that make them look similar. They have love for education, love for industry. They have love for development and modernization, as the last speaker spoke about. They love freedom, independence, and self-actualization. And I believe they also have fear of the true God. In founding Nigeria and sustaining Nigeria, both have made more sacrifices than any other party. And so I think that Nigeria's current performance, poor performance, must be largely blamed on the difficulty of the East and West to come together to save the nation. Political expediency has tended to keep us divided, thus perpetuating Nigeria's underdevelopment. I have wondered how, since I was born, over 67 years ago, that I have lived in a country that was called the Third World when I was born, variously promoted as less developed, least economically developed, or developing. I believe that Nigeria must achieve the status of a developed nation in our lifetime. And my hope on this is hinged on the success of this event and such similar events that will bring the unity between the East and the West, the Igbo, the Yoruba. I was born in the South-South of parents who came from the Southeast, schooled in the South-South, Southeast, and Southwest, and have run a full career in the Southwest. I succeeded a Yoruba man as the chairman CEO of Pfizer West Africa. I got married in the South-South to a woman from the South-South, had my children in the Southwest, and then some in the Southeast. I have investments in the Southeast and the Southwest. My second daughter is married to a prince of Ibadan. So I am personally committed to seeing that this handshake succeeds and endures. So what is the way forward? First, we must set a vision for ourselves and this new relationship. What is the vision? 2, we must rise above political differences. We can belong to any parties we want to, but we must hold ourselves responsible to see that the vision and accord we reach today are carried irrespective of political differences. All biases must be buried. All group characterizations must die. All stereotyping is, I regard, are false and misleading. Because we have many people who have proven that these stereotypes are not true. At least we know that Colonel Francis Adekunle Fajii proved it. If you said Yoruba are not trustworthy, this one man showed that they are. And I think that many of our elders here, past and present, many of them are seated here, and many still alive have proven this point. So we need to build a new relationship based on love, mutual respect, and also a love and on trust. We must always seek to build bigger and bake bigger cakes for our regions and our country and stand together to liberate this country. We must join hands to resist impunity, domination, discrimination, and all forms of oppression, as had been recently demonstrated by the Southern People's Assembly or leaders of the South and Middle Belt. The collective intervention of this group helped to save Ndigbo from witnessing another genocide on October 1, 2017 or thereafter. Can we hail this unity between the South and the North Central? How I wish that we had similarly stood up against the killing and humiliation of our youth by the Python dancers and crocodile tiaras as well as we did. But it is my hope that today marks a new turn for our two peoples, and certainly to the evolution of a new nation, where justice, equity, and fair play will rule. My last cry, ladies and gentlemen, very distinguished elders, is that we must take ourselves seriously. We must believe in what we are saying, and we must go forth here and stand firm. When I hear JFK speak, we need not be afraid of anybody. As long as we are standing on what is right and what will liberate Nigeria, we should go ahead with single mind and single purpose. I think the time has come for this country to be saved. And we here will do the salvation. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you very much for keeping to time. Please, a round of applause for Mazi Samo Huabongwa. Thank you very much indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, we are struggling with time, and we are going to be faster and more deliberately inclined to what we are going to do right now. I would then request the former governor of Ondo State, the Iroko himself, His Excellency Dr. Olusegun Mimiko, to please address the assemblage. Iroko, you're welcome, sir. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you very much. Let me salute our leaders in the House using Pa Ayo Adebanjo, the chieftain of Afenifere, as a point of contact to all the leaders, and also using the President General of Ohaneze Indibo. If Wodo, I must also recognize the royal fathers separately. I recognize all of you, sirs. Let me especially recognize the young ones there, our tomorrow. I recognize you, and I must say that I want to thank the organizers for inviting you to be part of all of this. Mr. President General, let me thank you for generously entertaining us and for your hospitality since we came. And we are looking forward to further hospitality before we leave Enugu, the coast city. Permit me to say, if I'm allowed, and I speak this with the permission of my leader in the House, Ifeanyi Adebanjo, that your leadership has brought new possibilities, opened new doors, fired imagination about what is achievable for an ethnic organization like Ohaneze. I congratulate you, sir. And I want to thank the Afenifere for nominating me as part of your historic delegation to this event. Let me just start by asking a fundamental question. And it's very important that we must ask ourselves this question. Why do we need this handshake? What is the essence of this handshake? Why did our leaders labor to bring this about? And I sat down asking myself this question. If Nigeria was working well, if, like Sam said, 67 years ago we were underdeveloped, if we are now a first world country, globally competitive, we probably would not think we need something new. If the future of these children were assured, if our universities are doing right, if it is no longer the ambition of every middle-class person in Nigeria to send their children abroad for university education, if right here in Nigeria we can have globally competitive universities, if our children don't die, if 1 out of 5 of our children don't die before the age of 5, if we were doing very well as a nation, we probably would never have thought about this handshake.
So we must remind us that it is not handshake for handshake's sake. The ultimate is that this handshake must ultimately lead to the development of our country. Our people live in mystery. God created man in his image, so he told us. He did not mean that we should, if we are in God's image, we should not be living the subhuman life our people are subjected to in this country. I think that is the whole essence of this handshake, because we must position this handshake. The handshake is not an end in itself. It is a process that we ultimately make our people live like human beings. Our generation cannot deny the fact, our leaders cannot deny the fact that our people have been subjected to subhuman living. Our life is short and brutish. Our women struggle all the days of their lives. They move from pregnancy to pregnancy. Never any child surviving. Our women die in the act of trying to give birth to life because we have not organized ourselves properly. And we imagine that this handshake must be one of the processes that will lead us to this El Dorado. Another issue that is very important. When I was invited to be part of this, I was excited because when I see on the social media the volume of bitterness being spit out daily between Dele and Chukuma on the social media, I get worried. And I say, these are new generations. So we have transferred this animosity, this bitterness from generation to another generation. And make no mistake about it. If this narrative does not change, if in another 5 years there's a genocidal war between the Yoruba and Igbo, the possibility is there. So it is, this handshake is about the fact that we have transferred bitterness from a generation to another generation. And I think it's the responsibility of all of us to say, enough. Enough for the sake of our future. I think we must position these things right. And let me just, before I continue, congratulate the Fajuyi and the Aguirunsi family. You sit down there, we celebrate you. We can pontificate and wax poetic talking about the sacrifice your parents have made. But you are the ones that know the sacrifice that you have made. You are the ones who have had to live in a country where people don't remember the siblings or their heroes. You are the ones who have had to struggle through university without fathers. But you know what? That's good news. The greatest legacy your parents could have given to you is what they have left for you. And you should be happy and rejoice in that legacy. I want to congratulate you. Let me remind us, if you look through history, because people are surprised. I thank God for social media. There's nobody that will see the imagery that I saw on the social media about those that are butchered and battered in Benue. That will not be radicalized about the idea that Nigeria must move forward. That we must put an end to whatever circumstances led to that. Growing up, I know that many of people in my age mate in my little town could not slaughter fowls. If we needed to slaughter fowl, we had to go and hire people. But if a man can pounce on a man and butcher him like a fowl, there's something basically wrong with us as a nation. The question is, are we a nation? Now, and don't forget, and it's very important, that every genocide in history emanates from this preconceived idea of racial superiority or insecurity, including material insecurity. But simple, great ideas have also developed man. And I think it was somebody, the first speaker here, who quoted that section from the American Constitution, that all men are born equal, that it is self-evident that we are all born equal. That fundamental, simple idea drove the initial immigrants that developed America into the great nation it is today. And there's nothing we can take away from America. Trumpism or no Trumpism is a great nation. In our quest for rapid development, therefore, we must eschew ethnic prejudices, be it Yoruba, Igbo Yoruba, or indeed any ethnic prejudice, if we must develop our nation. In our quest for public development, we must eschew and build our politics around positive ideas. We now live in a world where machines are built to think, a world in which artificial intelligence threatens our fundamental assumptions of employment. We can therefore not afford to be cocooned in the prejudices of the past, some of which are based on perceptive errors, indiscretions, or some of our leaders living or dead. And I think the sing-song today, like the Ghanese president said, is bygone should be bygone. No more time to talk about what has happened in the past. Let's put it behind us and move forward. For sure, we must learn and cherish our history and allow it to enlighten our choices of today and tomorrow. But we must resist the temptation of perceiving history as an invitation to live in the past. I hate poverty. I hate poverty with passion. I am sure the typical Yoruba man hates poverty. I am sure the typical Igbo man hates poverty. When God decreed at creation that we should be fruitful, He couldn't have meant that our children will die while trying to give birth. The number of us we have been here today, thousands, hundreds of our women have died just in the process of giving birth. I hate it when 1 out of 5 of our children die essentially of preventable diseases. I hate the devaluation of life, which Indy once told us that is worse than currency devaluation, that has translated to rampant and unchecked killing in every part of our country. I hate to be considered an inferior human being because my country, my race, has refused to excel in virtually all areas of human endeavor. We that were forced into slavery have now become voluntary slaves. And we are even ready to take any risks, so to be. Yes, even at the risk of traversing deserts and oceans in the most hazardous manner. Our young ones, the strength of our today and the wisdom of our future, have become objects of derision, victims of hard drugs and all manners of occultism and cultism. Is this the nation that we can be proud of? We thirst for a turnaround. We pray and shall continue to pray for it, but we must be ready to work for it. We must be ready to work for it peacefully through shared perception and agreed concrete democratic actions. Agreed concrete democratic action, so that this does not become yet another talk shop. We all agree that the structure of our nation is not serving us well, and in many ways it hinders development. Indeed, many of the challenges listed there, they're not exhaustive. We don't need development experts to say we have not made it. What we simply need to do, I dare say urgently, is to redesign this structure called Nigeria with a view to making it more functional. I don't want to go into details of restructuring. Everybody has talked about it. Nigeria must restructure. And one of the very interesting reasons we are gathered today is the fact that the Southeast and the Southwest are on the same page about restructuring of this country. For me, that is the immediate handshake. We agree on that. And I dare say that the South-South, the Middle Belt, those that have, and the light and the progressive elements in the Core North have all agreed on restructuring. And that should be our sing-song. That should be our handshake, immediate, across the Niger or across the Benue, as the case may be. As regards to consensus, I am glad that in spite of everything, some semblance of consensus is imagined. Look, there's no way, let me just demonstrate to you that I've been an executive governor, executive quote and unquote, because I wasn't in charge of the forces of coercion in my state. I wasn't in charge of law enforcement agents. That is why you see Governor Othom agonizing and lamenting and lamenting. When the governor is saying somebody must be arrested, if you are the chief executive and chief security officer, why can't you order the arrest? He cannot do it because we only pretend that we are chief executive officers of a state. We are chief security officers of a state. If there was the type of mayhem that we had in Benue and the governor cannot order arrest, you must appreciate the fact that we need to restructure in this nation.
Thank you.
I am glad that in spite of everything, some semblance of consensus is emerging around the more critical issues of restructuring. But indeed, all over the country, not only in the South, it has become clear, and I have often averred, that restructuring is not a North versus South thing. Rather, it is about unleashing the potential of all parts of our nation for rapid development. My conviction in this regard is what has made me to align with mainstream Yoruba political tendency, exemplified by Afenifere. And I want to thank all the leaders of Afenifere for keeping the flag flying. And I dare say it is also the reason why, as governor, I supported the convocation of 2014 National Conference. And also, in my own little way, supported the Southwest delegate. I am persuaded, because people have talked about restructuring. What do you mean by restructuring? How do you define restructuring? I am persuaded that what the conference came up with is a good enough starting point in rescuing our nation from this suffocating structure that has some strong development for decades and promises to keep doing so for a long time. As we proceed to develop this concept of handshake further, let us please note three critical issues. The first is that seeking to build a stronger bond between the East and West is not inconsistent with our desire for national unity. In fact, it's a catalyst to that national unity. Indeed, it is a case that when two significant units of a system work in harmony, it portends greater prospect for the entire system being the same. Secondly, a comb-through history of our system revealed profoundly pieces of evidence that should ordinarily serve as the basis of greater bonding. This is what the two objects of celebration today, Aguyi Ironsi and Adekunle Fajuyi, exemplify. Thirdly, a handshake across the Niger on its own and by itself may not mean much if we do not embrace governance that will change the lives of our people. In concluding, I hasten to conclude that if you are affronted by rampaging poverty and despondency in our land, if you are ashamed of our race being the object of global derision, if you believe that we must restructure in line with a functional federal system for turnaround that we desire, then we are kindred spirit. East or west, north or south. For me, that is the enduring handshake across the Niger. Thank you very much.
Iroko, a round of applause. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.